I'm sitting here at Northfield Park in between races. Didn't get a chance to do a video today. It has been a tough week. A tough week in the sense that, things went our way. Well, first off, I couldn't find a house. Found one today. So we're going to move in Friday. An apartment, condo, something like that. So that's a huge, huge weight lifted off my shoulders. Got to find a babysitter so that Amy can come in the mornings once we get up here full strength. Will be better. I don't have much more to elaborate on as far as what I talked about the other day, potentially sending some horses to Massachusetts. I'm trying to get a handle on a feel for what the dates might be. I don't think anybody believes they're not May 6th, obviously, but May 20th, even June 1st. If we send horses now, it's April 22nd. By the time we get some of them qualified, ready to go, and in a trailer and to somewhere, they're going to race, what, once? Maybe twice. 8-hour ship, new surroundings. It's going to be tough on them. And for a horse like, I think for a horse like War We Welcome, yeah, I can probably make a case to send her. She is qualified. She was racing. Just needs a stiff train up. I can get James and Johnny to do that at the farm. She could go to a place like Plain Ridge. What else do we got? I don't know. I mentioned the other day of Adrenaline Rush, no free lunch. That date is so important. June 15th is totally different than June 1st. And that's not being clever. I mean, it's 15 more days. It's potentially 2 starts added on to what you would have had. You get 3 or 4 good tighteners into a horse. Get 3 or 4 good tighteners into a horse. That is a feather in your cap. Then ship them back 8 hours. Give them a week off. They're ready to go when everybody else is still trying. Because you have to understand, just because you qualify a horse does not mean it's in race shape. Some horses need a few starts to get that race muscle on them. And you can't do it training. It's not the same. You can't. Sometimes it's tough to even do just schooling. You have to have, it's not just the race times or the way you have to move them in a race. It's that, that total workload. You can't simulate racing. And I know some people believe you can. You can't. And I believe June 1st is tight. June 15th, not so tight. So I'm trying to do what's best. The last thing I want to do, ship them there, here, wherever, get them qualified, race them, have them finish 4th or 5th, couple of starts, and then ship them back to Ontario. What an absolute disaster that would be. So I'm really trying. This is a slippery slope, and I'm really trying to make the right moves here. So there are some horses that would be easily moved, not a big deal. War We Welcome on the top of the list for sure. Wouldn't be hard to move her. We'll go over that later on in the week. As for today, a lot of people asking what happened was so admirable. Quite simply, Mark Beckwith called me and said, listen, little heat in her, might be right, I think her left front ankle. He said, I'm not worried about it, but she hasn't been eating real good. She spiked the temperature yesterday. He said she might be fine. He said, but when you factor in her going into her first start as a sophomore, and you're gonna race her with an ankle that clearly has a little heat in it. Probably nothing. She might have hit it, might have banged it. And during that week, hadn't had a great appetite and was spiked a little bit of a high temperature, like 100.9, 101. Not really a big deal. He said, but I said, Mark, you don't have to beat around the bush. Just tell me you'd like to scratch her and fix everything up. He said, yeah, I would. So I said, go ahead. You got to do what's right for the horse. We all know what's going to happen if we race a horse half-assed. You're going to get a half-assed result. So let's not. So that was an easy one. Broadway Roll, for the people that own Broadway Roll, he said he thinks she's a winner in there next week. He said, man, I raced her conservative. She's coming in first start off, as her 3-year-olds. Was it her first start? No, she raced twice in London. But been off a little while, right? At least 3-4 weeks, more than 4 weeks, because she had to qualify. So qualifier, then a race. He thought she raced really well. I thought she raced okay. He figured, she'll be very good in there next week. So I'm glad that he's really high on her. That's great. As it goes for Sweet Ambitions, I don't know what to tell you. She raced terrible. Scoped her after 2 out of 10. So let's go realistically. Ava's learning fractions. Let's use those. 1 out of 5 for blood, which is a very small amount. You would only mention it if you're looking for an excuse. In my mind. 1 out of 5 for blood. A little bit of mucus, ulcer on her palate. Really, is there enough there to show winning in 56? Now, it was a hot day and a fast track, and then getting mauled in 59, finishing last on a colder day on a damper track. No, it's not. So I'm going to get Tim to take blood on her, check her muscle count. If it is a little bit of blood, fine. Maybe she went over and raced her guts out 2 weeks and bled a little bit. Horses can win and bleed. White Tiger come 28 flat, raced his 2-year-old season, finished like a bearcat. He bled at 3. Bled the other day in a qualifier. We had to drop him back on Lasix for a little while. These horses can bleed if they're not just right. And Sweet Ambitions, could it be the 1 out of 5? I suppose it could be. Was it for sure? That's a hard sell. It could have been a lot of things for her. Ultimately, we know how her throat looked. Tiny bit of mucus, not a big deal. An ulcer definitely can cause a big problem. Could have been the ulcer. Could have been the blood. Could have been a combination of the 3. Maybe she tied up a little bit. I don't know until we get the blood back. All I can tell you was the horse that I watched today was not the horse that I drove last week. So, these things happen. She did have a week off. Is she one of those horses that just has to be zinging tight to be real good? Possibly. So we will take it on face value. We know what her throat looks like. Let's have a look at what her blood looks like. We already know she can trot fast. So, yes, it was frustrating today. Probably a little embarrassing for Tim. She went to Tim. She dropped 7 seconds off her lifetime mark. Everybody's saying, geez, the horse raced great, and then to come out and race bad this week. It frustrates a guy like Tim. Tim's a great horseman and a good worker. And for her to go out and race a poor mile after such a great mile is frustrating for me also. So let's take a look at the blood, formulate a plan, go from there. If we put her on Lasix, then we put her on Lasix. But not really the end of the world, yay or nay. Who did I race so far? Holy Chick, interfering still quite a bit. You can see I never pulled the earplugs. She was rough in the turns. I lost ground in the turns. You got to go around 4 of them here. It's whether these are great turns or not. If she's hitting, she's hitting. So the tiny shoeing change we made last week was no better. So we'll make a little more significant one for her next start and see how that goes. I've been happy with Holy Chick. She's a gamer. All I had to do was move her over at the head of lane. She was trotting forward. But it is kind of important that you get around the turns when you're racing on halves and 5/8. So we'll go from there. We'll see how she is after the next shoeing change. I mean, she's still going to trot 58 probably over this track on a good night in the final, which is okay. It's fine. But if she interferes, let's say she interferes 30% less. Now I got a crack at them. And that's how I feel about Holy Chick. Then I come out with I'm a Lovely Lady. Listen, I'm a Lovely Lady was flat, but she doesn't look great. Her appetite is slowly starting to pick up. I said to Jason, got to get lots and lots more fluids into her. She still looks a little woody. The good news is she didn't race good, but she didn't look good. So I think as we get her looking better, as her appetite picks up, it really helps that we can stay on site and race. Drop her in a trailer, ship her all over the place. It's not that easy on a horse like her, especially horses that don't have a lot of weight to begin with. It's not an easy thing to do. So get her on her appetite. Jason said she's eating better now than she ever has, and he knows her better than anybody. So keep her eating good, get some fluids through her. She'll come around and drive her accordingly. I could have moved her out of the 2-hole down the backstretch and dropped the hammer on them tonight. She probably gets beat at the wire. Maybe she wins. But she was much better finishing up the way she did. She'll come out again hopefully next week, I think. She might have the Buckeye. So if she has the Buckeye, we really got to get on her this week and continue to make sure she eats good. I think fluids too. A couple of rounds of fluids from the veterinarian. I think she'll start to spark back up and come to life. But I wasn't I wasn't very unhappy with her race tonight. Her race looked exactly how she looked. If you showed me that horse and showed me how she raced, I'd say, that's a pretty good race for that horse. Just needs to look a little better. That's nobody's fault. She's coming around now. The hot weather, the warmer weather's coming. That old hair will fall out of her. She'll start to feel better and race good. So not unhappy with her race tonight, but we all know she can do more. I'm about to race George here in the next race. Then we got Fox Valley Britska. And who else do we got? We got one more. Italian Grit. So still a pretty heavy card to come for the rest of the races here tonight. But so far today, little lackluster. Happy with Lady. Chick did all she could, right? She could have run. Then I'd say, she's hitting herself and she run. She stayed at it. She's a trooper. She raced good. Broadway Roll apparently raced great in Saratoga. Looking for a better race from her next week and Sweet Ambition's race terrible, but let's figure out why. We'll talk to you guys soon. I hope you're all having a great day. Found a place to live. I'm having a much better day. I'll talk to you soon.